Hey, and we are live. So, thank you for joining us today. This is the Entrepreneur Book Club, and we're going to be discussing Art of the Start 2.0 by Guy Kawasaki. And this book was recommended to me by my business coach and consultant, Ernesto Gamboa. And Ernesto Gamboa, I've been working with him on and off for about, I think it's going to be 3 years now. But he's here at the meeting, and I'm going to allow him a minute to introduce himself. Thank you for joining us, Ernesto. Can you tell us a little bit about your coaching experience?
There. Okay, I'll start again. I didn't mute myself, but somehow I was muted. But Michelle, thank you so much for having me. Yes, my name is Ernesto Gamboa. I am a business coach and consultant at an incubator here in El Paso called Pioneers 21, and we help new, starting, and growing businesses to grow and achieve their goals. And I've been working with startups in some fashion since all the way back since 2001, and I've worked now with over 100 startups. Not all of them at Pioneers 21, but the vast majority. And so we've seen lots of things. And this particular book is my single most favorite book on entrepreneurship. There's lots of great ones. There's lots of great ones. But if I had to pick one, I would say it's this one by Guy Kawasaki, and not Robert Kiyosaki, who's also very good in his own right, but Guy Kawasaki, who was the first or second sales evangelist that was hired by Steve Jobs at Apple.
I know I was about to ask, so why this book, right? And I think, well, after reading it, I think I know why you chose this. Like, it covers such important topics that come up as part of it, like the entrepreneur journey, right? And I actually talked about some of these on the Instagram live about how the one that impacted me the most was about when he talks about leadership. If you don't know where you're leading your team, and if you don't know that you're a leader, if you don't know how to lead, you really can't be an entrepreneur because you're not guiding your team anywhere. And that for some reason just stuck on me. Like, I guess I had been a leader before, but I wasn't as aware of the importance of it. So I was ultimately I went back to that chapter several times, even today. Like, that was one of the chapters that I started reading with, because I've been listening to the book all day, but it was one of the chapters that I just kept going back to because of the importance of leadership. And you had a few words to tell me about when I told you that I didn't think I was doing my best as a leader. And so, what was your advice, like, to entrepreneurs that are on the same platform as I am, that think that maybe we weren't doing our best in leading our companies?
Well, the thing is, and Guy Kawasaki talks about this a lot, is that being a leader is extremely hard. It's extremely difficult. For some reason, a lot of us seem to think that being a leader, being a manager, telling people what to do, which is wrong, by the way, that's not what leadership is relatively easy. And they think that other parts of entrepreneurship, like finance or manufacturing or operations, are the hard part. And no, it's always dealing with people, trying to lead people is the most difficult thing. So I guess the main uh, comment there would be, if you as a leader or even as a person in whatever field of life you're in, leadership is hard. It's very, very hard. So don't beat yourself up. If you're at least aware of it and you're trying and you're doing things like reading books and watching YouTube and trying to do a little bit better, then hey, you're doing great just by being aware and trying to get better as a leader every day. And then to kind of circle back and answer your question, why this book? Again, I'll say it several times probably. There's lots of great books on entrepreneurship. What I love about Guy Kawasaki, and by the way, this is version 2.0 of this book. 1.0 has been out for many years. 2.0 came out maybe 3, 4 years ago. It's because he gives it to you no nonsense straight. Not a whole lot of fluff, but it's not boring. Sometimes when you hear that a certain author, speaker, person is no nonsense and gives it to you straight, you worry that he or she might be boring or something like that. Guy is not boring at all. So he gives it to you straight, no nonsense, without a lot of extra fluff. You know, we're all super busy, but he's always entertaining and even funny, and covers, you know, the relevant stuff that's really important. What's the most important things to a leader? I mean, and to an entrepreneur, and breaks it down. So that's why I really love this book.
Okay, I was unmuting myself. So one of the things that also stuck by me was when it talks about hire people who are better than you, which I guess I thought I was the best at everything, but apparently that makes a lot of sense. I'm definitely not the best at everything, and I should hire people who are better than me. So that made sense. If I want to, hire somebody that makes better products than I do, hire somebody that does better cashier job than I do, or better, packaging or anything that I need done. I guess as good as I think I am, that is a good thing because it sets an example. It sets the bar that I need somebody better. So if I'm already here, I can't hire somebody that's down here and try to get them to be up here. Then it makes sense to put people in like a certain position, and it just made sense. Like that wasn't clear to me before for some reason. I don't know why. It just seems like something that would be so logical, right? So I don't know if anybody else here has experienced that. Roman, Claudia, Lorenzo, if you guys have any experience with this, or if this resonates with you in any way, let me know. In hiring people, have you considered that we do have to hire people who are better than us at the job we're hiring them to do?
Nobody wants to go, then I'll go.
Go ahead, go Ernesto. Tell us.
So, yeah, so the thing with the hiring better than yourself is he kind of tells what happens if you don't try to follow that path. Excuse me. If you don't try to hire better than yourself, then everybody in every level in your organization is going to hire less, and so it's going to be a race to the bottom of sorts, right? So he uses, A level people, B level people, which is, it's kind of not nice to talk about folks, but he's talking about competency and abilities and motivation, things like that, character. So he says, if you're an A level person, you need to try to hire an A plus, because look at the opposite. If you're an A and you hire a B, then guess what? That B is probably going to hire a C, and that C is going to hire, and again, it's going to be going the wrong direction. And pretty soon it's a type of race to the bottom. So yes, you should always try to hire the best possible people, hopefully people that are better than us. And the reason that, I think is pretty obvious why that doesn't happen oftentimes is because people maybe sometimes are threatened, right? If you as a boss, if you as the owner, the entrepreneur, find someone who's amazing, you're like, well, if I hire this person, then maybe I'm going to be out of a job, or this person is going to, teach me, hey, you're doing this all wrong and I can do better. But for your organization and for yourself, that's what you want. You want the best possible people. Then you get into the whole different thing, right? You need to compensate them properly and make them feel valuable and important and empowered and all that. But it all starts with hiring better than yourself. So that's why that's so very important.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Hire people who are better than you and lead them in the right direction. Like that. And like I said, like you said, he just cuts straight to the point. He gives it he's very straightforward. And I actually like that because I don't get, people are like, we sent you hints or we sent you messages. I don't get it. Like I need something that is actually straight to the point. And this book seemed to be a lot of that. Would you say, like, it was straight to the point in letting me know, the mistakes that I was doing here or there that were impacting my business in a negative way, or just maybe not allowing me to grow as much as I should have been.
Great. Hey, I think Roman, you had something to share, but you're muted. So you can
Let us know,
yourself.
Roman.
No, you're still muted, Roman. Okay.
There we go. Yeah, those very, very good points. Very good points that you bring up, and I think the word better means a lot of things. It's very subjective for any type of business because we're all doing unique things in our competitive in the competition that's out there. So I think the better means to me diversity of thought, creativity. You know, the way a person thinks. Um, Maybe it might be better than you're thinking. Maybe that person is not more intelligent than you are, but they bring a very diverse skill set that your business has not been exposed to, and you could leverage that, right? As also the mental toughness. You know, we as entrepreneurs and business owners, we hold high expectations to ourselves because we're super proud of our business, right? But we can't hold those high expectations of our employees. It's never the same. They're not the owners. They'll have some skin on the game, they'll have something on the game, but it's never the same. So we can all shoot for, try to not create little clones of us, but have them bring a diverse thought process, something unique, something special that we are lacking. We look for those little gaps. Do I need a specialty in this area? You know, like hippie girl Michelle, you know, with all the line of soaps that she has, you know, I bet you around the world, there's other soaps that she's not even heard of, you know? So when somebody presents himself or herself in that capacity, then that's what I mean by diversity of thought and creativity and innovativeness, you know, something that is lacking. And to me, that's the better part.
Those are excellent points, Roman, excellent points. And you actually touched on something that I also wanted to bring out, which is not directly in the book. And Michelle, let me know if you don't want to go down this path in the interest of time. But right now in particular, and even though we want to hire better than ourselves, and Roman added some great insights as to what that could mean and broadened our definition, hopefully certainly did for me. But right now it's tough to always hire people, period. So the flip side of that is hire someone that has the best possible strengths, but then get back to the 80-20 rule. I'm a big believer in the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. If you can find an employee or a partner or something that can do a specific job or task or fill a role, 80% as well as the entrepreneur the entrepreneur, like Michelle just said, thinks that they can always do it the best. But if you can only find someone that can do it 80%, 90% as well, that's good enough. Again, I always try to hire the best possible people, but sometimes, and even in times like this, when a lot of companies are hurting for employees, period, you still need to try to find somebody who can do it 80% as well, and then try to train them, develop them, give them experience, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So I guess with going back to my business and how this related, like I hired somebody to kind of like you said with my soaps. So I think I have a great I've created like a great recipe, right? And so I have the base down correctly, but I'm not as patient to be creative and like decorate it pretty. And I hired somebody who does that much better than I do, And so you're right, like maybe they don't, they don't do everything better, but in that aspect, like they are more creative and like patient than I am to do that particular job. And I've also recently hired an influencer for the boutique. So this is like a model for like the clothes I'm wearing. And so I don't like to go in front of the camera. So I hired somebody who likes to be in front of the camera already, who, likes to play dress up and do all those things. And so she has more, she's better than I am at that. So I think I kind of related in those two matters. I was like, okay, that makes sense. Like the last two girls that I've hired are better than me in those two subjects, I guess. And so that kind of helped me out and keeping that into perspective. Like you're right, like maybe it's not everything, and 80-20 rule is a great rule to abide by, but I had never thought of that. Like, hire somebody that's better than you at what you need them to do specifically, just like a small task. Like, it doesn't have to be better than you at everything, or kind of like you said, right now we're not everybody's we were through like a phase where not everybody was looking for a job, where it was like hard to hire for sure.
Right. So right, you always have to balance everything out, right? So hire as well as possible, but then try to recognize their strengths, try to fit them into those areas, and then obviously, big part of leadership is to try to develop them, right? Have a training program, experience, empower them. All those things come into play. Absolutely.
Can you hear me? Okay, Ernesto.
Yes.
So, what's another one of the topics that you like that comes up in the art of the start? Let's go with you.
So there's so many. I literally could almost, just like with the first version 2.0, I could literally highlight almost all the book, 90%. Speaking of the 80-20 rule, I could highlight 90% of the book. I mean, again, I think it's just that good. But a couple of the really key ones. He talks about when you're starting a business or a venture, that you should focus on make meaning, right? Make meaning. So he talks about, you don't want to go and start chasing the money. You should be doing something that you are passionate about, something that's going to make the world a better place, you know? So make meaning is a huge one. And I'm just going to throw these out there, and then we can circle back and discuss them however you all want. Another one is to make mantra. Make mantra is basically saying, you know what? Most organizations have these super long uh, mission statements and vision statements. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but most organizations can't, anybody in the organization, even the CEO or COO, most of the time they can't even quote their own vision statement or mission statement. I've talked to consultants who have told me, I've been in conference rooms where the vision statement or the mission statement is painted or somehow, displayed on the conference room. And when I challenge them, what's your vision statement? What's your mission statement? They still can't even tell you what it is. So make mantra is, you know what, take what's important and really make it into a small enough statement that everybody in your organization, obviously starting with the boss, the founder, the entrepreneur, can say it. And so some of the examples he gives of make meaning is Nike. Nike, everybody thinks that it's just do it. Well, that's their external slogan, but their internal mantra is authentic athletic performance. Okay. And Federal Express is peace of mind. Okay. Not when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight. That's their external slogan. So make mantra, find a short, mantra, a few words that express what is important to you and your organization. So make meaning, make mantra. And the last one of the three, although again, there's so many points we can discuss, is to niche thyself. Niche thyself. And what he means by that is, it doesn't matter what industry you're looking to penetrate and be part of. As long as you niche yourself properly and narrowly enough, you can be successful. So for instance, just because there's McDonald's doesn't mean there wasn't room for Burger King because they had flame broiling. And then Wendy's, which, had a different angle on it. And then after there was these all, proliferation of burger places, guess what? Chick-fil-A comes along and says, I'm going to do the burger joint, but I'm going to do it with chicken. So you think about how crowded the burger spaces is in fast food, and yet there's still always rooms for entities to come in and find a niche that you can exploit. So those are three big ones that we can talk about. If you like, make meaning, make mantra, and niche thyself.
Those are excellent points, Ernesto.
Do you have a business mantra, Roman?
Yeah, well, it's an external, improve the brain, improve the performance. But from an internal perspective, I think, it's a deeper thing. I remember years back, Bob Revlon, founder of Revlon Cosmetics, was asked, "What do you sell, Bob?" And he said, I love what he said, because he said, in my manufacturing facilities, we produce cosmetics, but in our retail stores, we sell hope. And that's pretty deep. You know, when you start taking a look at what is it that you do, you know, um, so for me, you know, for our company and your peak performance, you know, we give you competitive advantage. Um, that's our internal mantra, and that's our internal vision statement, and everything else revolves around that. That's our platform in everything that we do. You know, I think the other piece of it is from an entrepreneur starting off from ground zero is you got to be mentally tough. If you're not a mentally tough person, you're not going to make it, because it first starts with you. I mean, leadership starts with you. You first have to begin to how to learn how to lead yourself, how to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and meditate or go run or plan your day or whatever, you know, taking a cold shower in winter, you know, to give you that mental toughness, you know, just little stuff. It's surrounding yourself with mentally tough role models. You know, I mean, there's so many things that really apply to this, but I think the foundation of being mentally tough from the onset, from day one, to what is your internal mission statement and your external mantra and what you stand for, and give you that platform. And people and your employees see it. That they see me. They, you know, even the athletes that we work with, these are elite level athletes that fight in the UFC. These are deadly son of a guns, you know, and they're mentally tough, but they see you and they analyze you and they see what you're all about. And once they know that, you know, this person is a person that speaks from the heart, he is mentally tough himself. I like his mantra. I like his energy, his good vibes, and he has something that other people don't have. And like Ernesto just said, you got to niche it down. Our niche is not all sports. We specialize in fight sport, combat sport, neurocognitive performance, and we're already in the top 10 in the world of neurocognitive performance trainers for fight sports. Yeah, I'm even having to turn down elite level athletes because I don't have the time. Like, geez.
What a wonderful problem to have.
Yes.
So I guess with mine, I thought that I don't have a mantra, and I was thinking that I did, but kind of like you said, like maybe what I had was a slogan, kind of like Nike, but I don't think that I have a mantra yet. And that's one thing that like the book also made me aware of, that what I thought was my mantra is actually my slogan.
Yeah.
What
So
is?
it's not the same thing.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that your energy, I mean, for me, it's not something that you come up with overnight. I think you got a deep soul search on this one and really listen to your heart and really listen to what it is that you really do for humankind, for Earth, for everybody, and really say, this is what I do. And I think that platform will sustain every employee. You know, if you can grab one of your employees, your newest employee, take them to a school on career day, and if that employee can give the most powerful presentation about hippie girl products, dude, you're doing something very, very right. Yeah.
Hey, Clavia, did you have something to share? I noticed you unmuted yourself for a little bit.
Yeah, I don't have a slogan, and I'm right now I'm a solo entrepreneur, so it's just me, the company, and I have a like kind of mantra that it says, know what you need to do to get there. And I have it here in front of my computer because right now I'm in a process to develop my dream, my plan, and I need to do the steps. So I turn to that, and And I always say, okay, I know what to do and I need to do this. And for me, that is my mantra. I repeat it every day. And maybe the slogan that I'm using right now is a good item and a good price. Because right now I'm a selling person and I need to sell a lot in order to move forward to the other steps of my dream. But I'm that.
Nice, very nice.
Good.
That's superb. I think your mantra and that slogan that you have give you a basis, a really strong basis of what needs to be done. Jude, I think you're way ahead of a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm trying to be focused and yes, it's help a lot.
Very cool.
Good. Thank you for sharing. So Michelle, I don't know if you have another area you want to go, but there's one that I would like to also mention. Another concept that he talks about is the concept of an MVP, a minimum viable product. Minimum viable product. I know, again, from firsthand experience, a lot of startups, a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that concept of delivering, coming up with, first of all, and then delivering a minimum viable product. That's a very common concept throughout the startup world, right? This MVP concept. And Guy Kawasaki takes that and he adds to that two other V's, which is a minimum viable, validating, and valuable product. So he calls it MVVP. And again, that just expands on this concept, which is well known. So as an entrepreneur, as a startup, if you're not already to the point where you're making sales and scaling, focus on what is the minimum viable, validating, valuable product that I can deliver, or service, by the way, that I can deliver to my customer segments, right? And the customer segments come from our niche. That's why we niche ourselves, so we can identify our customer segments. And then if you focus properly on developing and then getting adoption of your MVVP, is that enough V's? Your MVVP, then you're way ahead of the game on where so many startups get stuck.
Ernesto, what is the meaning of the triple B?
So minimum, the original concept, which is very well known, is minimum viable product. Okay. So, for you, for instance, your minimum viable product was the first few times that you sold, that you identified a product that you think would sell, that you set yourself up the mechanism, the infrastructure, the system to sell it, and then you actually generated that first sale and you delivered it to them. So that was your minimum viable product, right? Then the author adds two additional V's, validating and valuable. Okay, so he says, yes, the minimum viable product is important, but the other part that the MVP does is, number one, it validates your concept. You think you have something the market wants, but until people start buying it, right, and until you're ready to deliver it as your MVP, it hasn't been, your concept, if you will, has not been validated. So once you can deliver it and people are actually buying it, paying for it, now it's been validated, right? And then the last part of it is the valuable, because sometimes startups would develop what they consider was a minimum viable product, but nobody wanted it. And if nobody wants to buy your MVP, it's because it's really no value, right? You have not offered the customer value. So he just took this old concept, very common concept of MVP, and added two V's to it: minimum viable, validating, valuable product.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ernesto, another topic that was highlighted here on 2.0 was the art of socializing, which I think in this we're headed into a very digital world that has made social media marketing like so important. And so that's one of the things that it highlights, like the importance that it said of being like on every platform, maybe not having to focus on every platform, but he said like, you know, a lot of us were, maybe some of us were hesitant like to start, let's say like on TikTok, because right now TikTok is probably like the newest platform. And it says that it's actually good to go and start a profile so that maybe you can start gaining followers. Whereas to when you start and you create a profile, once the platform is already big, it makes it harder for you to actually come into the game and gain followers than as if you start like right at the beginning. So I have done this with Facebook, with Twitter, with Snapchat, with Instagram, and I felt short. I have great following on all those platforms, and I did fall short. I became hesitant to start on TikTok, and I have found that TikTok is probably the one platform where I have the least engagement. Versus like the other ones, I feel that the other platforms, they've been easier for me to maintain, but I did start those platforms since the beginning of, I mean, we're going on years now. So that was one advice that I think was good to give to entrepreneurs now, that it is important for us to be on the all the platforms, even if we're not active like all the entire time.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great point and a very valuable tip that I think he gives. Now, I'm going to give a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm old, and so I'm cutting edge when it comes to social media. I'm all about MySpace. I'm cutting edge. I'm always on top. I'm on the leading edge, right? And someday soon I'm going to learn how to do Facebook. But joking aside, Michelle didn't catch my joke. She didn't laugh at that. No, but in all seriousness, I am not a social media expert, the furthest thing from it. But uh, obviously, I recognize the importance of it. The author talks about it so much that social media is a godsend, a gold mine to entrepreneurs because it's so free or very close to free, very affordable. It's so common, it's so widespread, it's so powerful, it's so tailored. So absolutely, he goes on and on about, and I agree. If you're not doing, if you're not putting a lot of effort into social media, you're just missing the boat. But yes, to Michelle's specific point, I thought his insight of, hey, yeah, you got to be on the de rigueur platforms like Facebook and Twitter and stuff, the more common ones. But the fact that he says, go look for these newer platforms, right? Which like TikTok, which is not that new anymore, but it's certainly newer than Facebook and Twitter and things like that, or Instagram, things like that. And there's always new platforms. And he says, if you're early on there, you can build a big following and you can be ahead of the curve. Now, he didn't talk about this, but I have my own crackpot theory. And notice I said crackpot theory on why that is. And because I was thinking about that a lot. And I think it's because in a lot of industries, you always talk or you hear about the early adopters, right? If you have a new product, you want those early adopters because they're the ones that are going to be willing to try somebody new, something unknown, right? So those early adopters are going to help a lot of startups get started. Well, when you have a new platform, who are the folks that first get on there? Those same early adopters, right? So I thought, again, this is my own crackpot theory. Now, this is not Guy Kawasaki. I think that the reason why you can have so much success being early on these newer platforms is because who's going to be on there early? The early adopters. And everybody, regardless of your industry and whatever, you want to start hitting those early adopters. So yes, that tip about looking for, finding, and being early onto newer platforms, I think is amazing.
Yes.
Okay, so when it talks about like the like being strong on social media, it also goes a little bit into like being on each platform. It talks about using it like to your advantage. And right after or right as it's discussing social media, one of the mistakes, another mistake that I realized I was making a great mistake, was that it talks about how my company runs a lot on events. So my boutique makes money when I have events, and I can get a lot of people gathered in there to bring in, because that brings in a lot of sales, right? So it talks about how when you're promoting an event, we only focus on like the pre-course of the event, like getting people there. But there's not enough, and this is a mistake that almost everybody out there is making. And we're focusing so much on the event that we're not focusing on the actual event itself. And so it says that you should be spending the same amount of time as you do on promoting the event as you do on the same day of the event. It even like says to have like a social media person that covers the event, so that you're kind of hyping up the event and making it cool. And it gives a couple of tips on like how to make your event profitable. But for me, that was an eye opener, because I feel like that's a mistake that I've made for years now, where I just focus, and then the day of the event I become so busy and entangled in the event that I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't take pictures. But the actual day of the event, you should also have it planned so that people are posting, so that people are promoting your company. And so I think a lot of the times we focus on that too, like let's say for Dr. Velasquez, like let's say you're focusing on your service, and and I do this and I do that, and then you get the athletes, and then we don't know what you're doing. And a lot of the times, it says like, oh, okay, like what are you afraid of, that people are gonna steal your idea? Like, it won't, like that. It's just that wasn't something that we should be afraid of, and it explains exactly why in the book. But it tells you that you need to promote the actual event or what is happening, as much as like we're hyping up to sign people up, whether it's like for our services or for our event. And that was one other topic that I was like, oh my gosh, look at that, another one that I haven't been hitting the mark on that one.
So I don't disagree with what you said, Michelle, but let me build you up a little bit as your coach, one of them. We all make mistakes and we all learn from it. And by the way, I consider you, Michelle, to be a social media expert. And before you push back on that, what is an expert? There's lots of definitions, but really an expert is somebody who knows more than the average person on the street. And again, as one who has worked with over 100 startups, and even right now working with 15, 16, even more startups at a time, you definitely are a social media expert. So you've done a very good job with that. And so the fact that you missed this one area, you know what I mean, is don't beat yourself up too much, because you've done a lot of things right. You've done a lot of things right, especially in the area of social media. So none of us are perfect. If we go back to the Pareto 80-20 rule, you've done probably 80% right on your social media, and you missed this this one area, and that's fine. You recognize it now, and you're doing better. So yeah, don't beat yourself up too much. We can always learn, and we learn from our mistakes, and we just move forward. And now look at what you're doing. You're sharing your lesson learned with other folks, and that's valuable.
It is.
So that goes for all of us. Ernesto, is there another topic that you particularly enjoy from this book, or that you think that would benefit other entrepreneurs?
Yes, again, we could go on and on. But another one is on the art of pitching, right? The art of pitching, giving a presentation. And I know that there's, oh, look at that. She's way ahead of me. Great minds think alike. That's frightening to think, by the way. Yes, the art of pitching. As an entrepreneur, you're always selling yourself. Even if you don't think you are, you're selling yourself, you're selling your organizations, you're selling your products, you're selling your services. So a big part of that is pitching and messaging. And he has a great chapter on that, the art of pitching. And he talks about a lot of things. That's another one of those chapters that I could literally highlight almost everything. But some of the big highlights that he talks about in pitching is doing your homework. You know, when you're invited to speak in front of a group, whether it's potential investors or a networking event or anything like that, to the extent possible, do your homework. Who's going to be in the audience? What's going to be the layout? What's going to be the preferred topic? Are there certain things that they really want you to cover? And you can do Google searches, you can do LinkedIn searches, and he even advocates one great little tip, which now I'm going to be a little bit like Michelle. I've known this and haven't used it over the years as much. He says, take the first 5 minutes of your presentation and ask them. Even though you already did your homework, say, hey, okay, before we fully get into it, what in particular, is there anything in particular you would like for me to cover? Is there anything you would like for me to know about you guys as an audience? So take the first few minutes to do that extra little bit of quote unquote homework right there as you're in front of them. That's a fantastic tip. The other thing that a couple other things he talks about in pitching, which is great. And again, it illustrates his no nonsense, no BS approach. He says, if you show up to do a pitch or a presentation and the projector doesn't work, it's your fault. If you show up and your laptop dies, it's your fault. If you show up and your USB doesn't work, it's your fault. Basically saying, if you're presenting and whatever goes wrong is your fault. You can't say, hey, the host or the building or whatever mess, it doesn't matter. It's all your fault. So what he talks about is being prepared, right? He says, I always take 2 laptops. I take my presentation on 2 separate USBs. I do that. And by the way, I also email myself the presentation. So worst comes to worst, I can just find anybody and say, let me log in. And then I also have, look, didn't I mention I'm old and cutting edge? I'm on MySpace. I always have paper notes. It doesn't matter how many, at the end of the day, I have paper notes. And then I've even not memorized my speech, but I know at least my talking points well enough that if everything goes awry, I can still stand up and say something meaningful. So that's another great lesson. Be prepared, over prepared, because if anything goes wrong as a presenter, as an entrepreneur, it's your fault. There's no two ways around it. And the last thing I'll cover on the pitching side of it is, 2 little things. One is that he gives this great outline on how to do a pitch in general, and he calls it the 10-20-30 rule. And I can tell you this is very common when it comes to the raising equity capital. Angels and venture capitalists follow a similar. Basically, the 10-20-30 rule is no more than 10 slides, no more than 20 minutes, and no smaller than 30-point font. And so some people say, what? No, but really, 10, 20, 30. 10 slides, 20 minutes, 30-point font, and stick to that. And the corollary to that is that's if they give you 20 minutes. If they give you 15 minutes, you do not go over. If they give you 15 minutes, you need to prepare to give your presentation in 14 minutes. And I see Roman nodding. That's the cardinal rule. You never exceed your time. If they give you 6 minutes, Michelle and I have been organizers for an entity a networking event nationwide that gives you 6 minutes. If they give you 6 minutes, you do your pitch in 5. So 10, 20, 30, and do not ever exceed your time limit, ever.
So I particularly love this chapter too, and it did teach me that a lot of these like the tips were really good, but it's just so you guys get a view of the chapter. It starts with, how can you tell if an entrepreneur is pitching? Can I have Claudia or Roman answer this? How can you tell if an entrepreneur is pitching?
I think you can tell when they're trying to, they sound kind of like salesman people. They're asking for a sale in a very selly way, in a very salesmanship way. I think the best form of selling is not talking about the sale itself, but talking about a relationship, getting to know each other, getting to know the needs of what the business is all about. I think that to me, I try not to. I mean, I try not to be a salesmanship type of person, but we have to be at the heart of it, right? But I think the most important things is the relationship that's gained, the trust, respect, professionalism, reliability, commitment. That's one of my pet peeves. If I get committed, I get committed 110%, and no less. So I think that is the groundwork for that pitch, but the pitch got to be right too. So
I agree with you, Doctor. And one of the things that I always said is that um, a business relationship or business networking, we have to treat it like dating, And if you want a meaningful and valuable and long-lasting relationship, you can't go all in on the first day. You got to court them, you got to meet them, you got to, see what their needs are, what they like, and what they're interested in. And a lot of the times, you're right, like people are just like trying to go in and go for it, and on the first, it doesn't. I feel very turned off by people who are too salesy or who try to be pushy or who go all in, kind of like how we said, on the first date. So I definitely like establishing longer lasting relationships that don't feel forced or pushed when I'm networking, of course. And it does say, so the answer is their lips are moving. So you are technically correct. Like we are pitching when our lips are moving, but the way that we pitch matters a lot. And so I agree with you 100% on that. I'm immediately turned off and drawn away from people who pitch too fast or who go all in too fast. Like I like to build a relationship that I can invest in. So I don't know if Claudia or Ernesto have anything to say about that. Claudia?
Well, I have been a seller like for 30 years or 40 years, something like that. And something that I really like is not to offer my services or my product. It's like you said, you are talking, you need to start connecting with the people. So for me, pitching, or what the book says that I haven't read, I'm sorry, it's about knowing the other people in the room. And then when you know what they need or they are looking for, maybe later send an email, or maybe in another meeting give something like, you know what, I think about what you are needing and I bring you this book or something like that. And that for me is the best. Like you said, it's a relation.
Yes, great points. Great points. Yeah, the only other thing I would add on the pitching side of it is that, yeah, he does definitely talk about not being salesy, and in fact that your objective when you're pitching should be to educate. It should be to educate. I mean, that sounds kind of trite, but you're trying to teach people something that they don't know, or certainly something maybe they don't know about you or your organization. Maybe it's something about a problem and how you might have a solution, or how you're better, cheaper, faster, or but if you seek to educate, right? If you seek to educate, and even maybe seek to help people, how do you help people? Well, a lot of times in a pitch, you can give them a free bit of information, without saying, no, you got to hire me or you got to buy something. No, here's a useful tidbit. Here's a great piece of, and by the way, that is also talked a lot in the chapter on the art of socializing. Provide value. Don't just always, hey, buy, sell. Provide value, help people whenever possible, give them useful content, useful information, and then the sales process will happen almost on its own. So that's the other part about the pitching. And again, so many of these chapters in this book are so great. I could spend an hour just on the pitching side of it. Practice, right? Part of the preparation is practice your pitch. Practice in front of a mirror, practice in front of a family member or friend, practice in front of your dog, even if your dog isn't going to like you afterwards, because you bored them. But practice. And now with these amazing things, you can even film yourself, right? You can even film yourself and then watch yourself pitching. And you can tell that I'm fidgeting, I'm moving too much, I'm not moving enough, using my hands too much or not enough. You can film yourself and prepare. So there's just no excuse to ever give a bad pitch. There's just no excuse to ever give a bad pitch.
I do use my hands a lot when I'm nervous. I've recorded myself doing that and I'm like, what am I doing with my hands? Like they're just everywhere.
That's funny.
Okay, Ernesto, what else can we cover? We have about 6 minutes left into our discussion.
I'm glad. I want to circle back a little bit to the leadership and the people and the hiring.
Okay.
He has a great section where what he calls the shopping mall test. But interestingly enough, Elon Musk, whom we all love Elon Musk, right? Some of us love to hate him and some of us just love him. But everybody has to know everything Elon Musk does every minute of the day. So the shopping mall test, Elon Musk calls it the do not hire a-holes test. So basically, it's just what that sounds like. Guy Kawasaki in this book says, if you're considering hiring someone, give yourself the shopping mall test, which is if you saw someone at a shopping mall or a busy place, right, before they saw you, is your initial instinct is to run and hide, duck so that they don't see you? Is it, hey, if he sees me or she sees me, and I guess I'll say hello and it's okay, it's no big deal one way or the other? Or hey, there's so-and-so, I gotta go. Hey, there's Hippie Girl. Let me go say hi to Hippie Girl. Hey, there's Dr. Velasquez. Let me go say hi. Hey, Doc. So he says, and I agree, if your reaction on this potential hire isn't number 3, immediately rush over to say hello, then you shouldn't hire that person, right? And again, Elon Musk just says it a little bit more succinctly. We don't hire a-holes. We don't hire a-holes. And so if it's even a question, Roman's laughing. I think I've made that mistake. Maybe Roman has too. But yeah, if there's even a question in your mind, right, that this person might be one of those a-holes, or hey, I'm not gonna rush over and say hello to him when I see him at a mall or something, then we shouldn't hire those folks. We just shouldn't. Life is too short to work with people like that, to be affiliated with people like that. Not only do they drain our time, Doc, you can probably relate to this even more. They drain your mental energy. They drain your mental energy. So life is too short to work with folks like that, especially in a startup. It's one thing at a huge organization, the post office or something like that, but in a small startup, you just can't work with folks like that.
So I agree with you. Maybe Roman has like a different take on this, but I believe a lot in energy, and I feel that people who carry negative energy, they tend to spread it around. It spreads around faster. This goes back to like the Brene Brown book where she says like negativity, if you put it in if you compare it to like being in a petri dish, what it does is it spreads a lot faster than happiness does. And so it's something that impacts your team negatively. And so if you have these people that, come with either like a bad attitude or being a-holes or, just being in like I guess what it would be also is tribal leadership. It would be like the twos, right? Like my life sucks. It kind of drains other people's energy. Instead of giving them like a good direction, you're heading back down there instead of going up here. So I believe in that with team members, and I have made that mistake, and I think I'm being more careful now, or at least I'm being more diligent in what that team member provides for the team. What energy are they bringing into the team?
Right, and there's a corollary also from him that goes, be slow to hire and quick to fire. Now, the slow to hire really talks about more, too many startups go and they start hiring people when they don't have enough sales, they don't have enough work to justify it. So that's the slow part. But the quick to fire is the continuation of don't hire jerks and don't work with these folks. Once you see that somebody is a bad fit, not to say that you don't ever try to correct them, but a lot of us hold on to people that are not a good fit far too long. If you've trained them and you've tried to correct them and they continue, then they got to go. And again, same thing. In a large organization, some bad apples are not going to drag the entire organization down. But in a small organization where money's tight and you're bootstrapping and there's a limited team and too much work for everybody, you got to be slow to hire and quick to fire.
Yep.
It's true.
What else? What else can we?
I think that's it for our conversation for today. I think that's a great note to kind of end on. As an entrepreneur and as your business is growing and as you have your company, even if it's already at a good peak performance, it still matters that you keep a close eye on your team and what energy it brings in, because it's really quick to lose it all. And it's good to know what kind of energy everybody is bringing into your group. If you have a bad manager, people will quit on you. Same thing. So we always have to be aware of the energy that people bring into our company. So I agree with you with that. That's a great note to leave it on. Be aware of the people that you're surrounding yourself with. And this isn't just for your company. This is also in your personal life. People with bad energy can be very draining. They don't bring happiness. They just don't bring positive feelings. So we definitely don't want to add to that dish of unhappiness or, miserable or, that type of negativity into our lives, not just professionally, but also personally. So thank you all for joining us today. Ernesto, thank you so much for recommending this book. I absolutely loved it. And I took away so much from it that I am going to begin implementing the mistakes that I see that I've been doing. And you're right. I do feel like I'm in a good position. I'm in a good direction, but this just guided me into an even better direction than I have been going. I highly do recommend this book for anybody that's not just starting a business, but already has a business. It's a really great book to read. Thank you, Roman, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Claudia, for joining us. We'll be letting you all know the next book is Think and Grow Rich. And I'll have the dates up soon for you all to join us on that discussion. Ernesto, thank you so much for being a great business coach, a great business mentor, a great business consultant, and thank you for joining